Right, let's see if I can remember how to do this. Oh man, I hate these things. Mild. I've not had the original Ramino before. It's nice though. Right, so interestingly, you know more about this project than I do at this point because I'm filming this right at the start, whereas you will have clicked on the thumbnail for the video, you'll have seen what the final thing looked like, even if it's just a small thumbnail. I've got some idea, but it's just an idea in my head at this point. I haven't even bought the materials, so yeah, I'm just gonna bring you along on the journey with me. My workshop is this garage, and I'm very lucky that it's a good size by UK standards, obviously tiny compared to a lot of American workshops, but I'm happy in here, that's what counts. You know, I don't make money out of this, it's just a hobby for me. And sometimes if it's a nice day and I'm working on a larger piece, I like to work outdoors, especially if it's a messy task like routing a profile around the edge of a larger piece. I can open the big up and over door. I can work out on the driveway if I want to using my Toughbuilt C700s, which are fantastic, or my kind of Black & Decker clone, which is great for smaller stuff. Working out on the drive, it's okay, but I'm always conscious that people can see in. I do try and park the car to obscure what's going on, but people can see that I have a workshop in the garage from out on the street. I also have this space at the back, and you can see we've got the barbecue here, but I always feel it'd be useful to have an outdoor workbench here. And I have toyed with the idea in the past of something that might go against the wall and fold up and then fold down when it's in use, but it's not really practical for a variety of reasons. So I've settled on the idea of making an outdoor workbench that can double as a barbecue side table. It's going to be on locking casters, so it can be moved easily because it'll be quite heavy, and also it lifts the legs off the floor as well so they don't get too wet. It will be painted to give it some protection, and to keep the cost down, which I'll go through at the end, I'm just going to make it out of bog standard CLS. I'm not going to use treated wood because that increases the cost, and to be honest, even if this only lasts a few years, I'll probably have another idea of something else I want to do out there in a few years' time. Being made out of CLS, I should be able to cut the whole thing on a Mitre saw, so good job I made that zero clearance insert recently. And I'm going to do all of the painting after I've cut my pieces, but before it's assembled, when it's all just in bits. The thought of stooping down to paint all the low stuff and get to the underside of things just makes my back twinge just thinking about it. So I'm going to paint it while it's all in pieces, and I can do it up high on the workbench. I've got a loose idea in my head of what I'm going to do, but I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not no plans or anything. So first thing to do is go and buy some wood. I'm in my local B&Q. This is their stock of CLS, and I know people knock it, but this first one I've picked up pretty much dead straight, to be fair. Yeah, I'm going to need about 18 of these. Right, I might have spoken a little bit soon there because actually a lot of them were a little bit banana shaped, and I did have to root through things a bit, but got there in the end. Well, that's a good start. Clearly my wood selection isn't great. By the way, I do love these Uvex Phenomic all-round gloves, and they come in size 12 for my massive hands, which is great. Oh, come at me. Little postcard interlude. Now listen, I've got some really sad news. This is Ginny. Her sister Jemima was the one that would always come in the workshop, and sadly she passed away. She's only 1.5. She got hit by a car, so not had anywhere near as many workshop interludes. We've still got Ginny and her sister Jessie. We had 3, we've now got 2. Jemima was the one that was my little companion, and I do miss her every day. Anyway, my QC process was clearly a bit crap for the 4x2s, so I've clamped them up on the workbench. I doubt it'll do anything, but there's no harm in it. Nope, absolutely no difference at all. It's kind of what I was expecting. Some people might say, oh, I'll leave this one till last and that could be my leftover. I'm going to get this out of my workshop ASAP, so I'm definitely using this. The way I'm going to fix the legs together, it will sort out the twist anyway, I think. So on with some cutting. That's my legs assembled, sort of, glued up. I've got these fake half lap joints. So, everything else is going to be 3x2 and that will fit in like that for the sort of skirt for the shelf around the bottom, and then also same thing at the top there, just enough for the skirt around the underneath the top to go on. I've left a little bit of wiggle room, you can see there, just because I'm going to paint everything before I assemble it. So this will have paint on, this is going to have paint on, but I still want it to fit together after I've painted it. The screws I've put in for the moment are not outdoor screws. I've got some stainless steel screws on order, but these, what I've done is I've just used 4x60 normal screws, and then my stainless ones are going to be 6x70. So when I take these out and replace them, by which time the glue will be dry anyway, the 6x70 screws will be both fatter and longer, so it should be biting into fresh wood the whole way, and I'll replace them one by one. So all the rest of my cuts are 3x2, and I've got something like 150 cuts to do, so I'm just going to try and breeze through that today. Right, that's all the brace pieces for the frame. Now let's do some other bits. Right, that was a lot of cutting. So these are all the buttons that are going to form the top, the kind of work top of the workbench. I've put a little angle on them here, you can see, so that it, when they're all together, it looks a little bit nicer. I mean, nobody's ever going to be complimenting the looks of this workbench thing, but never mind. I also put a little angle on the end of these legs, and yes, I've checked, and the plate for the casters will still fit on there, because I made that mistake with my coffee table. However, I did those at a 60-degree angle. I had everything set for 45 degrees, moved it to 60, and irritatingly didn't move the fences, and I've cut into my zero clearance fence, which is only on one side, but it's going to annoy me, despite writing to myself, move for mitre or bevel cuts, so I'll probably redo that at some point. But anyway, there we go. So yeah, I haven't done the, all of those spare pieces over there are going to make up the slats for the bottom shelf. Those pieces there are for the skirt. I want to make the skirt first so that I can see what the actual internal dimension is, and then I'll cut those pieces for the slats. I'm going to domino the skirts together. And I'll tell you why in a sec, and that's the only other bit apart from the legs that's going to be glued. And I could do the joint like that, or I could do the joint like that, and I want to do it that second way, like that, so that inside the half lap both of these pieces are supported inside the joint on this bottom ledge here. If I do it like that and just slide it out, you see it's only this piece that's going to be supported inside the half lap. This piece will have a screw going through it, but it's not got the support of sitting on there. The reason I'm going to domino these together is because when I put that screw through, I don't want to hit another screw that I've used to fix these together. So if I use a domino, I've only got wood, and I can drill a pilot hole, put a screw through, and then most of the weight is supported on the half lap or the fake half lap joint. You've done it wrong, fucking idiot. Surprise, surprise, I've gone and made an idiotic mistake. So you probably remember I said I wanted to join the pieces that way for the skirt so that both of them would sit within the half lap nicely, and I didn't want to do it that way so that there was just one piece in the half lap. Well, that's exactly what I've done. The long pieces for the skirt, I've put the mortise for the domino in the face, and I should have put it in the end. Thankfully, these short pieces, I've realised my mistake just as I was about to domino them. I haven't dominoed them yet, so I can fix this, but I think what I'm going to have to do is just cut these long pieces shorter, which means that my table overall gets a little bit less long or wide. It'll reduce it by about 50mm overall, so not terrible. Just means I'm going to have leftover slats for the shelf and leftover buttons for the top bit, maybe. I don't know, I'll see. Yeah, so for the zero clearance mistake, I've managed to glue a piece in here. What I did was I found a scrap of the same 9mm ply material, cut it at the same angle that I sliced into this at, 60 degrees, and then glued it in there. I cut it oversized and then cut it down to size so it's back to being Zero clearance again. It's only CA glue and activator that's holding that in, so whether it will last I don't know, but for now, for the cuts I need to make today, hopefully it will be fine, and we'll see how it goes beyond that. This is the longest clamp I've got, which is about a metre and a bit, but it's still not long enough for this skirt. But what you get with these Irwin ones, you can get these little connecting bars, so you can use 2 clamps. Take the end off, take the end off this one, and then use the joining bar, and it's just got these little pins that just go through. They don't even screw in, but they give enough strength. Pin through there. And now I've got a much longer clamp, which is really useful. And I can do 2 of these. I've got a medium duty one of these, and I've also got the heavy duty, which is bigger. They're 2 different sizes. Yeah, and you can see it bends a little bit, but it gives enough clamping pressure, so very handy things to have. And the reason I want to clamp this up is just so that I can see what the internal dimensions are when it's tight together, rather than just being loose in a dry fit. Well, it's been a lot of cutting and a fair amount of drilling as well, but I've got all my pieces ready for sanding and painting. So I've got my leg pieces here. I've pre-drilled the holes on the drill press for the fixings. I've also angled off, like chamfered off the end there, because this end grain is going to be exposed to the sky and it will get rained on, and sun as well, but it helped with the rain run off a little bit. I did want to do the whole thing, but it would have cut into these screw holes to do more of an angle or go further in. So yeah, that's the legs. That's all of the slats that are going to become the bottom shelf. This is all my leg frame brace pieces, and I've pre-drilled these on the drill press as well, so that the screws go through at 90 degrees to the frame. These are my skirt frame brace pieces. These are little things that are going to go underneath those to support them. That is the skirt pieces, and all these pieces are going to become the top. They've got a little profile on the end. You can see that's kind of angled off. These pieces, I've got 2 things where I have used Domino's to make 3 pieces together, and some screws as well. And the reason I've done that is because I'm going to have an overhang on the top, and when I get to the end I won't have anything to screw the last piece into, so I've connected 3 together. Oh, and I did carry that profile around there. That's the only cut I've used the table saw for, was that cut down there, just because I wanted to carry that sort of chamfer profile around the overhang. So now it's going to be a lot of sanding. Funnily enough, it's the sort of job where it would be really handy to have an outdoor workbench, but hey ho, I'm going to set up my Toughbuilt sawhorse things and do sanding outside. These are the Toughbuilt C700s. I really do love them. They've got so many options on for how to hold the work, plus those 2 bits of wood that you see at the top there that are screwed to it. When you put in your beams of 4x2 CLS along the side like this, you just have a flat surface, a flush surface everywhere. And this is just a sheet of OSB I've cut into 4 pieces that I use for track sawing and painting and stuff. It makes a great table, and you know, to be able to do that sanding, not making a mess in the garage that day, was just absolutely brilliant. There was a lot of sanding. I've heavily edited this and removed it, but trust me, it went on. Man, that was a lot of sanding. All right, all the sanding is done. On to painting, which is, I already knew was going to be a long part of the job. I'm not looking forward to it at all. The thing that's going to make it take even longer is the kids want to help. My daughters have been saying, oh, can we be in one of your videos? I don't think they realise quite how boring these videos are. So that'll take even longer, but they're going to want to be in it anyway. So, and I'm going to, for this exposed end grain on the leg, that's the word I'm looking for, I'm going to paint some Type 1-3 on the top just to kind of seal the end grain a little bit. But I'm only going to do that because I've got 4 of them. I'm not going to bother with these slats where I've got like 20 of them, because I just can't be arsed. And this is going to be pointing up at the sky, so the rain is just going to come directly down on this. So a bit of Type Bond, 2 layers of primer, 2 layers of paint, maybe 3 on the end grain actually. The other thing I'm just going to quickly do before I paint is, like, there's quite a lot of knots. Most of them aren't too bad, like this. A little bit of a crack and stuff, but there are some that are particularly bad, like this huge void here. I've got a bottle of CA glue I need to use up, so I'm just going to pop some CA glue into those, hit it with a bit of activator, and I'm sure it won't do a huge amount for the weather, but make me feel better that I'm at least trying to stabilise them a little bit. I started off painting on my own, but before long I did have a couple of little helpers turn up, which was nice in inverted commas.
We're little helpers, eh?
Little helpers.
I'm
yeah,
I'm a little elf.
Ah, And we've got a little cat helper as well.
Yeah.
All families here.
I've always wanted to be a YouTuber.
Oh yeah, you always want to be a YouTuber.
Yeah.
What do YouTubers say?
They say, give a like and subscribe, guys.
Yeah, clearly these two have never watched my channel. Debatable whether this job's going quicker or slower because of this, but we'll see.
If we get to 5,000 likes subscribers, then I'll do makeup on Daddy. Yeah.
You reckon, do you?
Yeah.
I don't think I'll ever get 5,000 subscribers.
If you do, I'm doing makeup on you.
Yeah, okay, it's a deal. After a while, the littlest one in the red top got bored and left. The older one did actually carry on going for a while, to her credit, but then she left too and left me to get on with it on my own, which I did. And yeah, this went on for quite a while in the garage. As lovely as it was having the girls help me, I am having to go in and trim off all of this overhanging drippy paint that they've got down the edges, because these are the slats that are going to go inside the bottom skirt, the bottom shelf. And whilst I have cut them so that they're not too tight, even with some paint on, I hadn't accounted for massive drips on the ends. I don't want to be hammering them into place and for layers of paint to be scraping off on the bottom skirt as I'm hammering them in. Let this be a lesson to you. Let your children help at your own risk. More work, not less. Right, stainless steel screws have turned up. I wish I could say it was in a nick of time, but it's about 2 or 3 nicks after the time they should have arrived. So I'm going to replace these normal screws one by one. So these are 4x60 normal, those are 6x70 stainless. I'm going to replace them one by one so as not to affect anything, even though it's glued together, shouldn't do, but still. It's 4mm screws are a PZ2, 6mm screws are a PZ3, so I need to have 2 different heads. Right, let's crack on. Always surprises me how warm screws are, how hot sometimes when they come out. I'm just doing the last bit by hand because I've read that stainless steel screws can be more prone to snapping than other ones. Alright, 1 done, 3 more to go. And finally we get to a bit more colourful painting with some orange left over from the cat house. Bit of an obvious tip this, but if you've got an old kitchen whisk that you can chuck up in your drill, they make great paint stirrers. And provided you're using water-based paint, all you've got to do is put them in a bucket of soapy water. Come out clean. I haven't really found any reason to use oil-based stuff these days for anything apart from gloss, to be honest with you. And finally, some of the green, which was an extremely satisfying part. Just knowing that I was kind of approaching the final straight of that painting phase was lovely. One quick thing I'll mention, I'm using this Valspar garden paint mixed up in a colour, and even after 3 coats I'm still seeing a little bit of streaking. Obviously from a distance perfectly fine, but if I come in close, you see here this sort of streaking. I mean, and I'm making sure that when I finish each coat I finish with a brush stroke going, all in one direction. Even after 2 coats of primer and 3 coats of the paint, it's not this kind of completely uniform surface, which is a bit disappointing really from Valspar. I mean, it is water-based and it dries very quickly, and like I say, from a distance, out in the garden all year round, absolutely fine. But yeah, not the best if it was something that you were kind of a bit more fussy than me about, I would think. And that, after 8 days of painting, is the final brushstroke. My God, it feels good. I mean, obviously not 8 days of solid painting, leaving stuff to dry, rotate, paint another coat, leave it to dry. But yeah, 8 days that's taken me, and so very glad to finish. Next is gluing together the kind of apron skirt bits, and then I need to fit the slats inside. The paint is touch dry, but it's not fully cured. That takes about 7 days, but I don't have 7 days to wait. I've already waited 8 days painting. So what I'm going to do, so that the clamps don't kind of adhere to the paint and rip it off or leave marks or whatever, I want to put something in between them. I've got some silicone loaf tin liners that I bought ages ago. There's 2 in here. I don't think I've even ever used one of them. So I'm going to cut those up and use them. Top one's done. Just, you know, don't judge me too harshly on these screws going in at an angle here, because this is going to be underneath the top, so you won't actually see it. So I didn't bother countersinking them. Let's see how these silicone pads work. So I just release this clamp. Yeah, very good job. No paint on there. Nice one. Well, there you go. Silicone oven lining, kitchen type things. A little bit of a snag. And it's related to painting everything in pieces. I thought I'd cut these pieces sufficiently undersized to account for the layers of paint and get them in, but they're a very tight fit to get in there. I don't really want to hammer them down because that will leave paint marks. I've used spreaders to spread it a little bit and get the first one in, the middle one. And I've fixed it in place, but that was a mistake, because now I've fixed it in place, I can't spread it anymore to get the rest in. I think what I should have done was spread it, get all of them in. I still think I'm going to have to hammer them along a bit, which is going to be annoying, and then start fixing them. So I'm going to have to undo this one. Annoyingly, one of the screws was spinning in the hole, so I already know this side isn't a great fixing. So I think I'm going to have to unscrew this side, because I know both are a decent fixing that side. So hopefully we'll be decent going in the second time. So yeah, out they come. I'm using these little things to raise it up a little bit because you've got the rounded edge on the CLS. If they were flush with each other, you would actually have a bit of a visible, I'm going to exaggerate it, it would be like that. So by sinking it down underneath the round over, this is upside down, so raising it up is actually sinking it in, if that makes sense. Never let anyone tell you that Robertson's square drive doesn't cam out. It cams out all the time, much more than Posi drive. Okay, I've got them all in the end. I had one screw that managed to burst through the side without me noticing, so that'll be fun and games. I'll just take that out, I guess. And then one plank, where is it? This one, freakishly short. I think the fact that it's at an angle there means, I guess I must have just gone a bit crazy when I was sanding it or something. Anyway, it doesn't really matter. Yeah, so let me just take this screw out, and then I'm going to pin on those little buttons that I made just as a kind of belt and braces thing. I've got my bottom shelf. I've got my top apron thing that goes underneath all the pieces of the worktop. Got my legs, got my brace pieces. So now it's just a case of attaching things to the legs, fit the casters, fit the brace pieces, and the last thing to do will be fit the top. Silly mistake fixing this corner. I didn't notice that this was jacked up. You can see the daylight there. So it's not level with the top, and I've fixed now all 4 of them in there. I'm scratching my head with what to do, because if I take the screws out and then just clamp it and then put the screws back, they're going to want to go back in the same holes, I think. So what I'm going to do, take the screws out, clamp it, put a screw down into the end grain of the leg, maybe 2 if I can. It's not going to be perfect, but I think that's the best I can do here. The magic of editing is done. I had to use some 5x120s because in stainless all I had was 6x70, but this is 63, so it wouldn't have gone far enough into the leg. I wanted to use 5s to try and avoid hitting any of the screws that were already there, so 5x120, thankfully I had some very long 5s. Anyway, that's done, onwards. I'm just putting these little brace pieces on. I've done them on the top layer, this is upside down at the moment. Just come to do them on the bottom, and I've noticed that I've drilled through on the drill press at a 45-degree angle. I've noticed that where the screw emerges, it's going to hit these on the leg, which is a bit of a nuisance, and obviously I didn't think about that. So I can still screw it that way. I'm just going to have to fire some 15 gauge nails in here so that I miss the screws, I think, and just make do with the 15 gauges rather than screwing through that way. It seems pretty sturdy, to be fair, when I lifted it down onto the floor, but I want to have these on because I like the fact that they're orange against the green. If it can take my weight, it's got to be reasonably sturdy. I'm just going to fit the casters. Now these they're quite substantial casters, quite nice, but they're not outdoor rated. And I tried really hard, because you think lots of things are on casters. You know, this is going to be a barbecue side table. My barbecue's on casters. Shouldn't be that hard to find them. I had real trouble. Well, I couldn't find any casters that were outdoor rated and had a plate that would fit within this footprint, which is 2 4x2s glued together, and would carry enough weight. I could find outdoor rated ones that would fit in here, but they were too lightweight. I could find indoor ones with a plate big enough that would carry the weight, and that's what I've gone for. So I don't know how long they're going to last. I suspect they're probably going to rust. Maybe I'll end up removing them after a year. I don't know, when everything's seized up, but we'll see how they do. I'll keep an eye on it. You know, if there's anything to report back, I'll let you know in a year or so. So yeah, going to get the casters fitted and then I can flip the frame over. There we are. She's looking pretty solid. Time to put the top on, I reckon. Right, another silly mistake. I knew I was going to add some extra fixing holes into these bits because I didn't just want the dominoes holding these planks, but I wanted to measure up on the frame so I could hit somewhere where I wasn't going to be hitting the screws that go into the legs, and I was further along on the piece of the apron that's going to go that way. So I marked up, went and drilled a hole for the first one and immediately hit this screw that I've got going through there. In addition to the dominoes, I put 2 screws in and I've hit that. So I'm going to have to drill that out, plug it with a dowel, put a bit of paint on it or something. But anyway, nearly there, very nearly there. And here it is. Huge apologies to Bourbon Moth for stealing this whole kind of clowning around for the camera stuff. But yeah, very happy with this. Here's that little bit that I had to plug with the dowel, that mistake I was talking about in the last bit. And I said I'd talk about costs, so here they are. I've included what I actually spent. I did have one piece of 3x2 left over, one piece of 4x2 left over, and I also had tons of paint left over. I was trying to do this with existing paint from the garden cat house thing I made a while ago, which I still haven't set foot in. The orange paint was the only one I had plenty left over. The other stuff I had to buy, but I did have tons left over in the tin. I'm back and I've had a haircut. Conclusions on this project are overall very happy. I think there's 3 things that could have been better. One is the time of year. It was the end of August by the time I finished this, so we're going into the autumn winter now. I should have done it earlier in the year really, so I'm going to keep it underneath some plastic just for this first autumn and winter. I've gone for this 250 micron or 0.25mm thick clear plastic, which is 1000 gauge. Did think about some barbecue covers or outdoor furniture covers, but they're quite expensive for what they are. And in my experience, after about a year, the UV damage just makes them quite brittle and prone to tearing. So we'll see how it goes under the plastic. I'm going to do that for the first year. Obviously, it shouldn't need it being painted, but we'll see how it goes. The other 2 things are both to do with screws. So one thing was screw collisions. I tried quite hard to plan it in such a way that screws didn't collide with each other because I knew it was going to be mostly screwed together. I still had a couple of instances where that happened, so needed a bit more planning really there. The other thing is the brace pieces that were at 45 degrees. When I was drilling them, I tried to countersink them so that I could sink the screw further in, but the countersink bit kept slipping in the chuck of my drill press. And I thought, well, it's softwood, it'll be okay, I'll be able to sink them far enough in. And actually, I should have tried to find a better way because it is a little bit ugly with them sticking out. You can see it if you kind of crouch down and you're looking at it from a certain angle. So yeah, that wasn't ideal. But apart from that, those 3 things, I'm really, really happy with that. So I'll call this one done. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.